Welcome back to Mental Health Awareness Month, and today I'm going to be talking about what I consider one of the biggest causes of men's mental health issues: toxic masculinity. So why is toxic masculinity so bad for men's mental health? Well, there's a number of reasons for that. The first being that it puts immense pressure on men to perform in a certain way and act in a certain way, especially around others, that is detrimental to both their health and well-being and everybody else's. It promotes things like being overly aggressive and forcing opinions on other people and suppressing natural emotion that needs to be expressed, meaning that you end up with a bunch of people who are emotionally numb yet full of emotion, and that will boil and that will come to a head and it will end badly for everyone involved. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I've been there. I have been both a perpetrator and a victim of toxic masculinity in my time. Thankfully, I've learned from the experience and I think I've grown as a person because of it, but the fact that it's still there is kind of troubling. Last week I touched on the numbers of men under the age of 55 here in the UK who kill themselves, and it's 25%. 1 in 4 people. 1 in every 4 men will kill themselves, and it's because of this toxic way of thinking that a lot of people try to sweep under the rug and say isn't a thing and is just men not being men anymore, and it's not true. Back in the World Wars they used to call it shell shock. Now it has the name PTSD, and it's very real and it's very dangerous, and it's one of the most common reasons why men commit suicide. Guys are taught from a very early age that big boys don't cry and that showing emotion is a bad thing, and because of that they don't seek help in a timely or successful manner. A lot of boys and men in this country don't have the emotional capability and the emotional skills to deal with difficult situations mentally or physically, and it's why so many men turn to suicide, because they can't see a way out. It's drilled into you from a very early age as a guy that you're not supposed to feel. It's not true. I mean, this time last year I was an emotional wreck. I could barely string a sentence together. I certainly couldn't talk about the way I was feeling because I was so overwhelmed emotionally that I just couldn't operate as a person anymore. And I guess the thing that I would say to every guy out there is, don't be afraid to talk about these sort of things. It doesn't make you less of a man because you have panic attacks. It doesn't make you less of a man because you were assaulted by your girlfriend. It doesn't make you less of a man because you were assaulted by your boyfriend. It doesn't make you less of a man because you don't know how to change the brakes on your car. It doesn't make you less of a man because you don't know the rules of football or rugby. In the same way, it doesn't make you more of a man because you've slept with 100 women. It doesn't make you more of a man because you know how to rebalance a carburetor. It doesn't make you more of a man because you know how to handle yourself in a fight. I'm quite often mistaken for a very macho man. I'm 6'2", I'm heavy built, I have a shaved head, I have a big beard, I ride a motorbike, I used to play rugby, I used to do martial arts, and most people expect me to have this very macho approach to the world, and a lot of people are surprised when I'm very open about my emotional health and lack thereof, and also are quite surprised at how open I am with other people and how much I care about how other people's emotional health is and their physical well-being. Now, that being said, there are elements of traditional masculinity that I think do have a time and a place and a purpose in modern society. I do think chivalry should be more of a thing. So I will actively hold doors open for people. I will always give up a seat on a bus for someone who is in more need of it than I am. I believe that violence does have a time and a place, and that time and place is either when protecting someone who can't protect themselves for whatever reason, be them not physically or emotionally able, or because they're being ganged up on, I also believe that sometimes violence needs to be used to solve situations where dignified conversation hasn't worked. We live in a society now where, for some unknown reasons, the Nazis are back. And I've got no problem with taking the fight to them. There's a whole thing that's been going on the past couple of weeks where Stephen Yaxley Lennon, or whatever his actual name is, has had milkshakes thrown at him. That's brilliant, in my personal opinion. He deserves way worse. I've got no problem with punching a Nazi, because Nazis are bad. But that's using aggression and that's using over-masculinity in a constructive way and the way it needs to be used. It's not using it as an everyday thing. I'm not going out and beating up everybody I see on the street, but if somebody is walking down the street racially abusing someone, you can bet your bottom dollar that a 6'2" biker Viking is going to get involved and, if necessary, is going to slap you down. Because sometimes being the over-masculine, over-macho person has its benefits. But if you have that attitude about everything in your life, you will soon find yourself hating everything about yourself, because all of those elements come from a part of you that is not happy with your current state of being. They always come from a point of inadequacy. The reason I know how to fight, and the reason I did martial arts, and the reason I did rugby, was because I got bullied at school and I wanted a way of fighting back. I felt powerless, so I did something about it, and the logical thing would have been to walk away from the bullies, but instead I learned to defend myself, and for a long time I used those skills and those abilities in a very negative way, and I was always on edge waiting for something to happen. And after a while I realised that I don't need to be on edge like that all the time. I don't need to walk into a room and know exactly where all the entrances and exits are. I know that I don't need to sit with my back against a wall. But it's that sort of thing that gets into your head and starts working its way in and weaseling its way through your brain and your thought process that slowly chips away at your mental stability. It was a time when I thought I was constantly being attacked. It's why my anxiety is so bad these days, is because I spent years constantly assuming that I was going to be physically or verbally assaulted by someone or something at all times. So I was on edge all the time, and now I can't turn that part of my brain off, which means that I'm now stuck in a permanent state of semi-exhaustion / anxious awareness, which sucks. But I guess the point of this video is to say that to those of you out there who go, oh, toxic masculinity isn't a thing, people are just becoming more sensitive. No, they're not. Toxic masculinity is a thing. It's different from being a man in my view, but it shouldn't define you. Being overly masculine shouldn't define you in the same way as being overly feminine should define you. What should define you is your words and your actions and your willingness to improve yourself, which is something I'm trying to work on as well, which is why I'm doing this this series all of the month of May. If you're liking what you're seeing, guys, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Also make sure you hit like and ring the bell. That way you get notified when I upload. I really appreciate everyone who does. It means a lot to me. If you've got an opinion on toxic masculinity, why not leave a comment down below? Let me know what you think. I'm sure we can have some kind of reasoned debate down there, but it is YouTube, so we will see what happens. And make sure you tune in next Monday, because I'm going to be doing a video on methods of self-care and how to set yourself up so that you have got a crisis pack should the worst happen and you take a mental health nosedive. But for now, I've been the Viking. This has been a new microphone. You've been awesome, and I'll see you next week.